Hello, Australia community. We are here again now with Deb Antinori from New Jersey, and we're hot. Feeling hot, I mean, also hot. But we are very excited. I'm very excited to have her here talking to us about, what she's thinking about the conference. And she's a Brainspotting trainer. She's also, I think it's better that she introduces herself. So you could please tell us, what you do with Brainspotting, what's your work, and if you can give you a little bit about the opinion, how it has been for you to be here in the first Brainspotting conference. Please.
Yes, well, it has been absolutely wonderful. It has really been a conference with so much incredible brilliance and professionalism and so much heart, so much joining together of people from different countries, so much sharing of information and experience. And I think that's so much what the Brainspotting stance is that first we are people. We're people first, and then we are colleagues. We're people first, and then we are therapist and client. And I know David talks about that a lot, that our humanity, what we bring to each other. And I've been in private practice for 25 years. And I worked with David Grand since the EMDR days, his natural flow EMDR. So I've seen the evolution of Brainspotting, and I just love where we're going now.
The picture we have on our PowerPoint, it's her. I'll tell them. Right. I mean, for the ones who had done the workshop with us, there is a picture of David talking about attunement. And the lady there, it's her.
Different haircut, but
And I was so happy to meet you, because I always said, who is this lady? Anyway,
that was wonderful. That was the showing of his documentary, Come Hell or High Water, about Katrina.
Yeah, I think they can find this on YouTube, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, you can find this video. Can you say again the name of it?
It's called Come Hell or High Water.
Yes.
David Grand's documentary about his work with people who were so devastated by Katrina in the U.S., in New Orleans.
I believe you can find a little bit on YouTube, but if you cannot, I'm going to ask you to send an email to his assistant, because it's an amazing documentary to watch. He's going on the streets and doing his work and bilateral stimulation, brain spotting on the middle of after the crisis. I mean, it was still the crisis, but after the disaster.
Yes, exactly. Just doing it. Talk about in vivo. He's just right there on the street, healing people on the street. Was wonderful.
But really, going back to her, one of the things that I love that you did in one of the talks that we had here was you explaining your opinion about what do you believe that Brainspotting is really doing. We were trying to find, it's the brain, this area, and maybe it's this energy or whatever. We were discussing a lot of stuff, and you come up with a very nice way of exposing your opinion. So please share a little bit with us.
Goodness, thank you. Yes, well, I think with the Brainspotting, so much we say, and my presentation with my colleagues Martha Jacoby and Christine Rank was staying in the tail of the comet. So that sort of sums it up in that when we set up for Brainspotting, what we want to do is have the client be able to follow their own pathway. And what that means for us is they are dropped what we call subcortically. So not a lot of talk, not a lot of left brain going on. But when we get our relevant eye position to the activation, we take our SUDS 0 to 10, where in the body is that? What we've done, then finding the relevant eye position from the paper that David Grand and Frank Corrigan wrote in Medical Hypotheses, the recruiting the midbrain circuits for healing truncated adaptation and orientation to a trauma. So what we are doing is, this is hypothesized now from Frank and David, is that we are getting, with that relevant eye position, the superior colliculi, which is first responder in the midbrain, way back here at the top of the midbrain, for orienting. So in order to survive as a species, as to have made it this far, we've had to know where to look for shelter, for food, for a mate. We have that same neurobiology as our ancestors who lived in caves, in the jungle, the plains, the hunter-gatherers. So it is that default brain that we are wanting to get to. So letting the client stay in that trajectory, and we are quiet. What I think is going on there is we have that superior colliculus, and then from the blink Nakano research Frank Corrigan looked at, that what he sees happening from their fMRI studies is that the superior colliculus comes online. But after that, they found with spontaneous blanks, not telling someone to blink, but spontaneous blanks, which are reflexive from the brainstem, then the insula, the insular cortex, and the cingulate cortex, that if you see the piece that Damir Del Monte just videoed here, he is talking about that as regulatory circuits, and Frank has talked about those as areas for great memory and neural integration. So previously we weren't seeing much, going on with an fMRI in the brain of that client for the more helpful and regulating parts of the brain. And here, with our relevant eye position, our hypothesis is that we're getting that first responder for orienting, that superior colliculus, then our insula, and then also our anterior cingulate and posterior cingulate cortex. So this is, so helpful in our healing to not be interrupted by a question or an intervention, unless the therapist really feels that I'm not sure where the person is and this is going to help me, or it's really going to help the client. You know that client well, and maybe you need to what we call tighten the frame. But another reason we stay in the tail of the comment like this is that our brain is built developmentally from the bottom up. So in evolution, in fetal development, and then from infancy through adulthood, our brain is first in the infant. The brainstem is the only part that's up and fully wired and ready to go. All that reflexive, breathing, heart, the heart beating, our digestion, everything we wouldn't have to think about to keep going in our body, along with our fight, flight, and freeze. Then we have our mammalian brain, and that's very much with attachment and bonding as well as survival. So survival, really, we talk about our dual attunement frame. Survival is to be able to be bonded as an infant and a young person to our caretaker, or we won't survive, and therefore our species won't survive. So it is healthy for us and a biological imperative that we have that mammalian brain in there, but only part of it is working. It gets developed in concert with our parents, our caretakers, in concert with the environment and our own temperament and personality as we're growing from that little tiny infant. And then the cortex, which is all of our executive planning, thinking, higher abstract thinking, understanding consequences, only 30% of that is operative and online at birth. So that's getting developed. So when we think about what we're doing with brain spotting, we're wanting that trajectory of the client to unfold in a way that gets to that foundation. This is first our mammalian brain, with the amygdala is our assessor of danger or safety. So it's assessing, am I safe and warm and I'm going towards, and here I am, I'm a baby, no language, no life experience, or am I recoiling, is it threatening, I'm withdrawing? This becomes the bedrock. It's the visceral soup that everything else is laid upon. Our perceptions, images, beliefs, mental models, that then conclusions about life, how life will unfold for us, who we are, what's possible in this world, what that look means on that person's face over there. All of this is what, when we have a trauma, David always talks about it. It's not usually the single incident trauma. It goes back to very early traumas, which can be pre-verbal and can even be fetal when we're developing in the womb. So when we are going back to this place that is pre-verbal, I think sometimes it's so hard to think, what does implicit unconscious memory mean? Because we think memory means, when my aunt, gave me this present at my 6th birthday, I have a memory. But that's in explicit conscious memory. That memory is only possible because our implicit memory was there first to give us that warm feeling about that aunt, and that, ooh, what's safe to feel a surprise and all excited about. That built on that bedrock first. So I think this is what we're touching into with the brain spotting. It's so important to allow that client to go as long as they can in that space where we wait and we're quiet and we ask ourselves, why am I talking? and also our social engagement system I was thinking about. People have been talking about Stephen Porges' work and that 10th cranial nerve. We have our ventral vagus, that's our social engagement. That's so much of where our oxytocin comes from, our endogenous opioids, the feel-good chemicals. And there are rich receptors for that in the PAG, which is right near that superior colliculus in the midbrain. So again, we have all those circuits coming up and down, more going up than coming down from the cortex down. So again, those are the circuits that are shooting more alarm and what we need to be safe and to survive. We want that to be in the stream, in the path of healing for the client. So that's a little of what I said the other day.
She was so generous. No, I think you gave even more than what you gave on that day. So thank you so much, because those are some questions that I think you answered so many questions. We could go on here and on and on, but I think you gave us a lot of ideas and layers of what Brainspot is really achieving. It's so profound, that's so hard to explain. But I think you gave all the all topics and all, you took a little bit of everything that we witness with our clients. So I think she needs to go to Australia, no doubt, because she got so much to share. She was very generous today, and who knows? I'm always asking them, you choose who you want that we are going to organize, because we want to keep bring every 2 years someone to Australia. So she's on our list. Up to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Amazing. See you. Bye-bye.